Eagles are 3-0, one of two undefeated teams in the NFC, and we're here to talk about it. As you know, we were talking 2-5, back at it again with an Eagles Buccaneers breakdown video. Right off the rip, Sean, what were your thoughts watching that game?
We are so back.
Yeah.
That was my thought. Like, even if we weren't clicking on all cylinders, I mean, the way that both of these offensive and defensive lines were working, we were just whooping ass up and down that field. Like, we were just balling in the trenches so much. Like, it was nice to see, like, what felt like a pretty dominant performance.
Yeah, I mean, both sides were doing a really incredible job, offensive and defensive line. Defensive line, especially up the middle. I mean, you can consistently seen last year when we almost set the all-time record, broke the Eagles all-time record for sacks. You saw a ton of that coming off the edge. Obviously, Hassan Reddick 17.5, Sweat had a ton, BG had over 10. And you're just seeing constant pressure up the middle. I mean, the first sack is as everybody knew, was going to be Marlon Tuipulotu.
But this isn't even the same, like, style. Like, I don't think this team, at least up until this point, it isn't even going to come close to 70 sacks on the season.
No.
They are winning just by absolutely just blowing the interior offensive linemen off of the ball and just completely stopping whatever that offense planned on doing. But it's not necessarily through sacking the quarterback. It's just like a destruction of the opposing offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, most of the defenses really just need a prescription for some more muscle. And thankfully, we've got the doc here for the expert opinion, Dr. Joseph Mesa from our friends at Delaware Orthopedic Specialist. Doc, what are you seeing out of these? Let's just stick with the defensive line. What are you seeing, especially out of these young guys on this defensive line?
Well, I think, Jalen Carter might have been the steal of the century. I mean, that guy is a monster. I mean, I don't know how you double cover him, and then he's kind of rejuvenated Fletcher Cox because he's getting single coverage, which he probably hasn't seen in a long time. So I think just him being there is tremendous. I mean, and it gives a boost to Davis. I mean, these guys are monsters. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I think, you're seeing much more pressure straight up the middle versus, Hassan Reddick. I mean, these guys, I mean, Baker was on notice. And I mean, the game before, I mean, they knocking quarterbacks, their will to fight just goes away because they're getting a couple of these shots and it is soul crushing. He's amazing.
Baker had set the Buccaneers franchise record for most snaps without a turnover or without an interception.
Oh, I mean, and the broadcast even called it. They're like, we just jinxed it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they did.
No, it's funny. My buddy was sitting there watching the game with me, and they put up that stat line before they even said anything about it. He said, "Oh, I love that. I love that they put that up there. They're just begging for it to happen tonight." And, sure enough, it did. Doc, sticking with the defensive line, interior defensive line, wanted to ask your professional opinion. Jordan Davis, a guy I was very high on pre-draft last year. I said there's probably three guys I really like. Jordan Davis is one of them. And you saw early on, he was very limited on the snap count early in the season. You saw him maybe get a dozen or so, was incredible at stopping the run. And then you saw him get that ankle injury. And he did come back for the postseason, but was never nearly the same. And then I was at training camp this year. We've said it 25 times. The guy just looks, in better condition. He looks a little tiny bit slimmer, looks better. How much can that ankle, even when he's cleared medically to come back and play, how much can that really harp on a guy, especially at his size, maybe keeps him from getting back into that game condition while he's recovering? I mean, we're seeing a completely different guy this year.
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I think the requirements, I mean, a guy that size can dominate at college with minimal effort. And I think going up a level requires more in general. And I think you add an injury to that, it gets hard to get to that level. And sometimes it takes a year to figure out what he has to do to be a top performer in the NFL versus in college. I mean, he was dominant in college, but I think the competition is going up. And I think he realized that. And, the ankle held him back, but I think now he realizes what it takes in the offseason to be ready for the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, he openly admitted he had imposter syndrome, felt he was out of place, felt that he was trying to live up to that first round pick, that just was really trying to go out there and dominate on a defensive line that obviously was setting records last year. And you see a guy more confident, more comfortable on that defensive line. He's working on multitude of different things. And, Sean said it great the other week. He's just winning however he wants. He's being able to read the offensive line and seeing what they're prepared for, and he just does the opposite. Oh, you think I'm going to rush you? All right, let me just swim right by you. Oh, you're really pushing forward? Let me just grab you and throw you down. I mean, the guy's just his knowledge of the game. And do you have the snap counts in front of you, or would you be able to pull them up?
I couldn't find them.
We'll find him throughout the episode. But he's still been kind of in that low to mid 30 percentile range, which right now, don't change it. It ain't broke. Don't change it. But the guy has just been a dominant force right there with Jalen Carter. I'm with you, Doc. I mean, Jalen Carter is probably the steal of the entire draft. He's right now being rated on PFF as not only one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL, not just out of the rookies, but he's rated right now as the 5th best player in the NFL. Okay, so Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter both finished with 21 snaps last night. Fletcher Cox led all of the interior defensive line with 32. I mean, what was great, though, was you saw that bulldog line. You saw multiple times where it was Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter right next to each other, and those dogs barked.
They did a hell of a lot more than bark. They bite. I mean, these guys are just doing whatever it is that they want to do. And it's just incredible how smart they seem to be, how quickly they can recognize and diagnose a play. Just diagnosing whether it's a run, if it's a sweep, if it's it doesn't really matter. This team looks prepared. They had 11 days off between games, and it looks like just coaching has been fantastic. I mean, we're less than a month through the season, but Sean Desai looks like the real deal as well. Just getting these guys prepared.
Sean Disguise, I'm telling you, man, he's hiding what he's bringing out there. Well, he doesn't even really have to.
It took him a couple weeks to really get every single player comfortable with the system. But man, when this team is clicking, they look good.
Yeah. Well, a little bit surprised, sticking with defense. Mario Goodrich was a healthy scratch yesterday. With Avonte Maddox being out, a little bit surprised. I thought he was going to be seeing the most snaps of his professional career to this point. We said it last week that he was completely lost out there when he was thrust in with the Avonte Maddox injury in week 2. And we were like, oh, well, he's got 11 days to prepare, knowing that he's going to be the slot guy. Then reports came out that James Bradbury was going to be kind of following Chris Godwin in the slot. But we didn't expect him to be fully there and that Goodrich would get back in there but he was inactive, and it was really just Job on the outside and Bradbury on the inside, and they'd kind of swap every now and then.
Yeah, so not only that, you had Terrell Edmonds get the lion's share of the snaps back at safety, as well as, of course, Reed Blankenship was back. They ended up playing Sidney Brown a lot more.
Yeah.
And this is something that you called
made a play
coming into the season. Definitely made a play. But you see that snap count just creeping up a little bit. And you can definitely tell they were just favoring packages that had Sidney Brown over anything that could have had Mario Goodrich in it.
Yeah. And going back to that Avonte Maddox injury, Doc, I know I used the cliff notes that you sent me, and thank you for that. Yeah. Just touching on, what to expect with that. And you were saying, no significant long-term effects. But we're looking at a torn pec here. We saw it with, who was it? One of the Watts had that the other year. Was it TJ Watt? Yeah. Or he was believed to have that.
Last
season.
So
it's a regular season ender, that's for sure. If they go on a run, you had said there's slight potential that he could be back by the Super Bowl, but very, very little shot that he'd be back for any round like that.
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is it's a big tendon. It has to heal. You can't rush these things. But the good news is for him is this is a recoverable injury. Like you mentioned, TJ Watt, he tore opening game last year, was out, and now he's back terrorizing again. So you can recover from this injury. It's just unfortunate his timing, but if all goes well and the stars are aligned, if they make a deep playoff run, there is an outside chance that he can play, just like last year.
Yeah, I mean, I was just about to say, this seems to be a broken record. Oh, he had a toe injury. He might be back for the Super Bowl. He was for a stretch. It's just like, look, we've said it 2 years ago. We said it last year. He's the best slot corner in the NFL, but you can't say that anymore because the best slot corner in the NFL plays every Sunday.
Yeah, you're not even a slot corner in the NFL if you're sitting on the sideline.
Yeah, right. He's not even a slot corner in the NFL. He's a corner on the IR. And we loved the signing when they got him. We thought it was a steal, a mid-season signing, right? Same time that Goddard got his. They locked them both in for 3 years, and we thought it was great. But at this point, you got to start looking for his replacement. Might be in-house. I thought they did well, but I don't think you're gonna, for a long term, expect James Bradbury to be your slot guy when he's an all-pro outside corner. But it's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, hoping and praying that he makes a complete full recovery, comes back for the Super Bowl that we will be in, and is the Super Bowl MVP. I mean, that's great.
I mean, if you stretch the season out long enough, everybody's going to heal from anything.
Right. True.
You play for an extra month,
Yeah, I mean, even Aaron Rodgers is claiming that he might be back this season. No shot, but he's making that claim.
I mean, their season is over at week 18, so.
Yeah. Want to give a little shout out, Nicholas Moreau. How about the safety bursting through the offensive line to grab the running back, toss him down in the end zone?
I
little design play.
I got to give more credit to those Bama or those Georgia dogs.
Oh yeah, opening up that massive hole for him to just.
Yeah, Jalen Carter took on a double team and won. Our boy Jordan Davis.
That's the name of the tape. Jalen Carter winning double team.
Literally just he got stood up immediately and was just like halfway through the play, remembered who he was and was like, actually, I'm going to shove you 2 yards back and directly into the ball carrier. And then, credit to Nicholas Moreau. He hop, skipped, jumped through the tiny little hole. And, way to make an offensive gaffe into a positive, right?
Yeah, I mean, the whole linebacking group, you never really heard anything. And we've said with this group being probably the weakest on the team and one of the weakest in the league, when you never really heard anything and they really had very little offense. I mean, going into the fourth quarter, Bucs had 99 yards of total offense. Linebacker core, everybody played damn well if that's the case. And so was really happy with that. Reed Blankenship obviously had a pretty darn good game. Had that huge interception. Reed
Blankenship is a stud.
Oh, yeah.
He is a bona fide stud.
And then what was it? That one screen pass behind the line where once he saw that ball leave the quarterback's hands, he broke on that thing. Shout out Reed Blankenship, the Scholastic Football Award winner, because he just continually reads quarterbacks. That's the same interception he had on Aaron Rodgers.
I thought you were going to tell me he sold the most books at a book fair.
He did that too. Shout out MTSU. No, that's almost like, I mean, you were there. We saw you on TV when he picked off Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. This was like a little bit different because he was the Aaron Rodgers one. He was deeper and he broke forward. This one, he just was watching Baker's eyes and was like, "You're really going to throw to that guy? You don't see me." Okay, great. And he just ran right in front of him, took it. They're lucky he fell down. He'd still be running.
Yeah, just from every level. I mean, you can't really point to one performance and say that guy had a bad game. I mean, and there were plenty of guys that were a little iffy coming into this game. Nicholas Moreau, he played 47 snaps, and I never once yelled at my TV because Moreau missed an assignment. Zach Cunningham, again, another guy that's just getting better in this system week after week. Right. I mean, you've even got Marlon Tuipulotu, a guy that said, "Hey,
big sack.
I am tired of you guys talking about everybody else on this defensive line." He only got 8 snaps.
I was surprised. So many people were predicting that he wasn't going to make the team, the 53. And now he's like, "Oh, I'm here and I'm going to make the best of my 8 snaps."
And it seemed like he made a play. He had something to do with the play every single snap he was in.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't have been more impressed. I mean, you talk about Josh Jobe being out there, right?
Yeah.
I thought he did all things considered.
Yeah, you saw a few catches on him, but he was right there.
But nobody
had. It was just like, wow, that's a great catch. More of like, oh, what's he doing?
Right. James Bradbury out to the slot. I mean, obviously
he's next to nothing all game.
Next to nothing. And this isn't his natural position.
Yeah, his highlight was a 2-point conversion.
Right. Right. Who cares? Right. You had Terrell Edmonds play 40 snaps.
Yeah.
Right. You never once heard or had some, gaffes where Mike Evans got real wide open over the top. He had one drive where he had 2 catches.
Yeah.
Right. Where you maybe can point to Edmonds' play, but
yeah, I mean, the first shot to Mike Evans, he was open, but credit to the defensive line. They forced Baker to get rid of it quick. It was a little bit high. and it was a little bit long, and it hit his hands at it was not a great pass.
That's why you have to be good at all levels of the football.
So
They're
the coverage wasn't great, but it's the same thing with the pick six Darius Slay had. The guy was open, but they forced a high pass because Jalen Carter was bearing down on him. And so, do you have theirs? Well, while we're still talking defense, Nolan Smith. Do you have a snap count for him? Because he had what? We were saying he had one snap the week before.
He had 6 snaps.
All right, so 600% more than last week, and he made an impact in the one.
I mean, the one QB hit he had first off was a booming shot. Right. It was a pretty heads up play where he had originally his rush had gotten stuffed and he had the presence.
Yeah, it looked like we were going to get him, and he just stepped right through the rushers and stepped up in the pocket.
Exactly. So I thought it was a smart play from him. That's something that turns out you're probably going to have to see his progression over the course of the season because he's probably just not ready at the professional level just yet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the team's extremely high on him. All the reports that we fully trust was he was going to be the guy at 10 if Jalen Carter.
I mean, he was lined up. One of those snaps, he was lined up against Mike Evans.
Yeah.
Right? They had him out. So, I mean, they're probably just trying to figure out what his best role is or how his role is best served on this team. So give it some time.
Yeah. Doc, did you have anybody on defense that really stood out to you or even a specific play where you're like, all right, okay, like that guy really made a damn good play?
Well, I did. The one you brought up, both of them. I mean, obviously Reed was great. And I really like seeing Sidney Brown on the field and that breakup at the goal line. I mean, he's an athletic guy. He's a hitter. It's nice to have somebody back there that can thump. And he impressed me in preseason and some of the stuff. And I'm glad to see he's getting his time out there. And obviously, I mean, you can't not look at like Jalen Carter. I mean, just the things he does. This kid's like three games into the NFL. And they're going to have to plan around this guy already, and it's an embarrassment of riches on that defensive line. We haven't even heard much from Hassan Reddick or
haven't heard
Brandon
anything
Graham.
From Hassan Reddick.
It's unbelievable. A Sweat. I mean, they've made their contributions, but I mean, good Lord, you rotate these guys, you find the right mix, and they're going to be pounding all day, and they're going to wear. I don't see an offensive line that can hang with them, except ours. But even ours would have trouble.
No, exactly. So, and we're going to talk a whole lot about that offensive line in a minute because you had said rewatching it. I mean, this was one of the all-around best performances we've seen an offensive line unit have. I'm interested to see what's going to come out of this Landon Dickerson. I wasn't paying super close attention at the end. Did he come back in?
He did. So he did not come back in, but he was walking around on without a boot. He was walking around under his own power afterwards.
Excellent. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what's going to come of that. They obviously technically have a short week with it being a Monday, and this is one of their 3 1:00 games this week.
Hallelujah.
And at home against the Commanders, might be the Redskins again shortly. If with the Native American Alliance suing the Commanders front office to bring back the Redskins name. Would like to see that.
Yeah, I don't even know if we're going to spend too much time talking about whether or not you liked the Redskins name.
No, that's about it.
Right.
That's about all the time that we had for it.
Right. It's ridiculous that they even changed it in the first place.
100%. But another group that I really want to talk about that we've been bashing, rightfully so, most of the season was this special teams unit. Shout out Britton Covey. Guy got added officially to the active roster. No more elevations. They said, Avonte Maddox, you're on IR. Britton, you're my guy, kid. Bring those beautiful teeth up to this active roster. And damn, did he make the most of it.
Yeah, he seemed like the most electrifying punt returner in the league.
Seriously.
Right? I mean, call it how you see it, man. We were not high on this guy at certainly the first 3 quarters of the last season, right? He kind of showed glimpses by week 15, 16, and we thought, it took you long enough, but it sounds like he's been working the season,
I will say this is because the Buccaneers have one of the best punters I've ever seen.
That guy was too good. He was out kicking his coverage.
Exactly. You have a worse punter that's kicking shorter, higher punts. He's not doing anything.
No, but he's hitting line drive 70-yard punts, and Britton Covey has all this time to figure out who's going where.
I was doing my best John Kruk impersonation on the one punt that he caught on like the 3-yard line. I was like, no, what are you doing? Let it go in the end zone. He returns it to the other. I was like, yes, it's just like I said, go, go, go. I mean, I was doing my John Kruk impersonation on the Castellanos foul catch and gunned him out. I was like, what are you doing? It's going to the yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic work from him. Every single punt, it's like he's getting the most out of it. And it's not something you expect, the punt coverage team to give him a couple alleys every single punt.
No.
But damn, man.
It's really mostly because the guy just outkicked his coverage.
Yes.
Way more than anything else.
Right. He was too good. He needs to put a little more air under him.
Yeah. And on the kick return side, Devin Allen, you made it. Congratulations, you did it. Don't ever touch a ball
again. Shit the bed.
Did you think the same thing when he caught it? It for like almost a second. He's like, should I run? Okay.
Yeah, because he was 1 yard deep. He was 1 yard deep, and he goes, okay. And then you're like, just take a knee at that point, dude.
It looked like he took a step.
Yeah.
And just was like, took a beat.
Right.
Was like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean that's inexperience.
Yeah,
right.
It was also terrible blocking.
Trying to figure out where this lane is developing, right? Not to mention, the blocking isn't good. No matter who you are,
a huge shortcoming of this team.
No matter who you are, if you catch the ball a yard deep in the end zone, just take a knee.
Yeah,
like it's nothing. It's no sweat off your back, man. It's
like if there's 1 second left and you're like, we're not going to get a 75-yard Hail Mary. Sure.
Right.
And you're down a score.
Right.
Sure.
You've got nothing to lose. But this coverage team is not going to give you anything beyond the 25 if you're Devin Hester.
Yeah.
Let
alone Devin Allen. But hey, you know what?
Much less Devin Allen.
You know what? Attaboy.
Attaboy.
You did it.
I don't have to return my jersey.
You have a Devin Allen jersey?
No, I don't have a Devin Allen jersey.
Thank you for your service. But yeah, shout out Devin Allen. Good for him. He was a guy that I was shocked to see on the game day roster.
Give him a shot,
and I love to see it.
I thought they were going to just give him one deep ball.
Yeah,
I thought they were going to try. I really did. It didn't come.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit of this pre-show, and Doc, I want to get your take on it because Sean kind of gave his reasoning behind it. But speaking of guys just being a little sick or a little under the weather, reports came out late last night about Jalen Hurts having flu-like symptoms just prior to the game. And Sean, you touched on it. It seemed like any time the camera was on him, he looked
miserable.
Yeah.
He looked out of sorts. Not that his play was really indicative of it, but you could just tell in his face he was not having a good time.
No.
Like he looked like he was mourning. Like he looked like he was at a funeral.
He never, like, no matter what was going on, positive, negative, he just was very, very pan-faced, even keel, not just like the even keel cool Jalen we're used to, just like
he looked like he needed a nap.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I'm gonna be that guy. I think it had a much larger role than a lot of people are saying. Like, we've all been sick, and he's playing a very incredibly physical, difficult game, both physically and mentally at the quarterback position. And you throw in just feeling like dog crap. Shout out Big Business Scoopers. They'll come to your yard in Jersey, South and North, and pick up the dog's crap. BigBusinessScoopers.com. But he's feeling like dog crap. And then you're asking him.
You're a consummate professional, Jake.
You're asking him to make these split-second decisions. You saw at least 3 times where he thought the route was going somewhere else. And once he got lucky, it wasn't picked. And the other time it was picked. And then you see these deep shots where they were just coming up a little bit short. I'm telling you, I have a hard time getting up and turning off my light when I'm feeling sick. And you're asking the guy to throw a 55-yard out route to the corner of the end zone.
55 yards.
Yeah.
He's going to break any second now, guys.
And
I'm telling you.
But I think that had a little bit to do with the ball being underthrown.
It's impossible to say because
now we have a doctor here. Doc, you backing my claims up?
Listen, when I feel under the weather, the only thing I can even relate to this is like going in the operating room, and you just don't want something bad to happen. So you concentrate. And I can't imagine
Slightly
doing
more
that and
important
have
than a football game. Yeah,
no, no,
somebody's
no, no, no,
like,
no. But what I'm
Watch your
saying
mouth.
is you have to concentrate, and that's without somebody trying to knock your head off. So you feel like you don't feel great. You just got to get the job done. I think he was very businesslike, and he was like, "Look, I'm just going to do what it takes to win this game, get the W. Don't make any major mistakes." And turns out well, he made two mistakes, but the big one, we got a safety. We got points out of
yeah,
his mistake. So I think he got away with one.
it's planned.
I generally feel that if you just don't feel yourself, it's going to affect your performance. And
Yeah.
to his credit, it really didn't affect him too much. He relied on the run, which I think was a smart move. And my opinion was that run was working. Why change? Just
Oh,
keep
yeah.
running the ball. Don't
Oh,
don't worry
100%.
about. It was raining. It was bad weather. He felt bad. I would be like, do the minimal just to get out of there with the W. And
Yeah.
he did.
Do you think, remember that slide early in the game where he could have
Yep.
he could have gotten another 3 yards. He could have gotten
Yep.
3 more yards and probably not have been touched and gone out of bounds. And then he
Yep.
slid. This was before I had heard anything. Now it seems to make a little more sense when you're feeling like achy, feeling like crap. And this is all speculation. I have no idea if he actually felt all that. Shefty reported it, but he's kind of a bonehead. Kind of makes a little bit of sense. Slide
So-
avoiding that extra contact.
I remember that. I remember my girl asking me why did he slide? Why didn't you just try to get out of bounds? And I thought he probably was avoiding taking the hit. He thought he was going to get popped as he ran out of bounds, and I didn't think much of it. I am going to disagree. Now, if Hurts had a couple good games, couple games of the season, and he had this game afterwards, I'd say, okay, maybe there's something to it. But when you're sick, and ultimately there's levels of being sick, right? I mean, you could be on.
This
your
is
deathbed with
comparable to the
pneumonia.
Michael Jordan flu game.
Yeah, it's comparable to who? Like how are we rating these things? Are we taking are we interviewing his immune system afterwards?
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into subverting your own expectations. Now, when you're sick, you don't quite have those expectations. So you often, if you are performing any sort of physical task, can outperform on your performance on good days because you have zero expectations.
What are you
No.
talking about?
Every single time you go, and listen, obviously apples to oranges, man. But if I go into the gym and I'm not feeling well, I am almost guaranteed to hit some sort of rep PR because I just said I'm just going to show up and see what I can do, right? I don't have any numbers in my head. I don't have any performance metrics to go off of. And it's pretty often that I can improve on my past performances because I came in with literally zero expectations because of how I was feeling.
But I think
honestly,
it's
I think it sucks more to perform. However, the performance dip isn't actually there. Unless, of course, I mean, you could be, on your deathbed. There's levels to it, but I think your regular just down in the dumps, not feeling good, head cold, possible flu is something that is included in that category.
but there's a lot of factors in that too. I mean, you're looking at a guy that basically the weight of the team is on his shoulders, and he's got to perform. So there's pressure that way. He's also returning to the site of probably his worst defeat in the NFL, playing in Tampa again. So he's got that with the same head coach that made him look like a fool in the playoffs 2 years prior. So I think you got to factor that in too. And plus, you just got to get through the day. He's like, look, I got the lead. I'm not going to be a hero today, but we're going to get the win. And that's the way he thinks. And I think he thinks the most important thing is getting that W. Not his stats, not AJ's stats. Just get the W and get out.
And he did.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
he was asked about it. He was asked about the
kept
flu
the
symptoms
main
after the
thing.
game.
The main thing.
That's what
all
you-
right.
Mm-hmm.
What you got to do. And he was asked about it, and he said, "We won." I mean, somebody asked him about it at the podium, like, "Hey, did you feel?" Well, I didn't hear the exact question. I just saw a brief summation of the press conference, and somebody brought it up, and he just answered, "We won." Like, it doesn't matter how I felt, we won.
I mean, you certainly there were clues, but it wasn't like he was having an abysmal game, right? The one
No,
interception that he had, that he was
Yeah,
trying to
the
get it
one
to
was
Swift.
yeah, he was open. No,
Was
yeah, that was just a miscommunication.
okay, but we're not used to seeing so many miscommunications. Like
Which
this
is
is
why I
something
think
that we've seen.
which is why his illness, I feel, played a bigger role.
But we've seen some miscommunications
that
throughout the first
much.
couple games.
Like that.
okay.
It-
So no preseason, new coordinator. You know, this is preseason for them. I mean,
Sean.
they're starting to
I
get their stuff together.
understand.
Come on,
Well,
Sean.
that's
There's
but
growing pains.
you add an illness to this, and it affects you. You know, you can't concentrate as well as you should.
We
So,
should have ran the ball
give a
more.
break.
Okay. Bottom line, your coach knows you're not feeling well. They should have ran the damn ball. I am telling you.
I agree
was
with you on
watching.
that.
We could only run and we'd win a game.
I was watching
Yes,
the all
I agree
22s,
with that.
and I would rewatch each play 6 different times, right? You watch the play, and then I would
Individual players.
key in on every single player of the offensive line. I could count on one hand the amount of times that our individual offensive linemen did not utterly dominate the person standing in front of them. Like, it was a technical masterpiece.
Was there anybody that stood out more to you? Is there anybody that, like, okay, amongst the greatness, this one person rose above?
So that was damn near impossible. However, the person that impressed me the most, I would have to say, was Cam Jurgens.
Cam, beef jerky.
Everybody
Jurgens.
did fantastic, but the expectations for this guy were not very high, and he looked just like, he looked just like Kelsey out there. He looked just like Landon Dickerson. He looked every bit as good as everybody else, and it was just very nice to see the entire unit working as one, right? I mean, if they were pulling, they were finding they get into the second level and finding the appropriate linebacker, right? I mean, if they were just chipping, they were able to run downfield immediately and set up a second block along the way. It was just beauty in motion, seeing these big uglies just shove every single play down the opposing team's throat. I could not have been more impressed.
And
yeah, I mean,
and
we
Lane
all saw the
Johnson
one. Go ahead.
got that extra Jason Peters step. He gets away with it. You know,
Yeah,
there's a couple of ones where he
and like I saw so many people upset about that, and like, look, I agree, it should have been
happens a
called.
lot.
It should, like, he normally has it where the ones where people are like, oh, he was like false start. He actually is timed perfectly. That one he was early.
Yeah.
That one 100% was a false start. But a lot of the ones that not only him, but you see guys on, they brought it up with the Chiefs. They brought up with these guys. They have the snap count so perfectly that if you watch the ball and their foot, it's simultaneous.
What is the rule that that back foot can come back before the ball snaps, but the rest of the body can't move?
I don't think so. I think you can't move at all.
Somebody was telling me that action is technically not a false start, and that's why they weren't calling it. I just don't even know. It comes to find out, I actually don't know what the rule is.
I don't think so. I think they actually, like, aside from that one, they normally have it so perfectly in sync that it appears, because you can't see his hand. You can see that big foot, but you can't see his hand moving underneath a mound of meat.
Yeah.
Listen, to me, it seemed like Lane was playing probably, if I had to give somebody the worst grade on the line, it was probably him. Like, that just kind of goes to show the utter dominance of the rest of this unit. Yeah, he was still playing A- football, but he wasn't like mowing people over quite the way everybody else was just mowing people over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did his job.
So
and he did it damn well.
It was just nice to see Cam Jurgens really establish himself. Like, he does not look undersized. He does not look weak. He does not look fragile.
No, I mean, you heard a bunch of guys saying that he's like one of the strongest pound per pound guys.
He looks big, mean, and nasty.
Yeah.
And
that's a guy that sells beef jerky.
And I want to buy some.
We will
today.
Give some out. But I mean, we saw some of the holes here. They're open up. I'm sure you saw the still shot of that one Swift run where they have the spider cam right behind it. Anybody here on the podcast, you could pick anybody out of the street. You could have ran for
literally just had Moses parting the Red Sea of Buccaneers jerseys.
Exactly. No, I mean, the incredible work and going right to DeAndre Swift. I mean, I have been very outspokenly. I'm a big Kenny G guy. I like Kenny Gainwell a lot. I think he's got a lot to offer. DeAndre Swift is far superior in the running game.
DeAndre Swift has a lot more to offer.
Yes.
Like, we tend to fall in love with some of our mid to late round picks that show promise.
Big Kenny G guy.
Kenny G is certainly a good NFL player.
Yeah.
Right. But you do notice the half step that DeAndre Swift has.
This guy's speed. Holy.
This
cow.
guy is quick, fast, and you set him up with an offensive line that he's not getting touched for the first 3 yards.
When do you think Devin Allen was at his happiest? When he touched the ball or when he watched DeAndre Swift hurdle somebody successfully?
I yelled that out loud. He's not the only hurdler on this team.
Answer the question. When was he happiest?
He wasn't happy at any one point during the game. He had one opportunity, and he threw up mom spaghetti all over him.
That's all right. He was very. No, DeAndre Swift is just. I mean, look, if there is a knock on him, his pass protection is awful.
Yeah, but so is everybody else's.
Austin Scott is surprisingly a darn good pass protector.
So that tends to be the exception versus the rule.
I'm saying a guy that's smaller and less explosive shouldn't be a better pass protector than the other.
Yeah,
but no, DeAndre Swift is a poor pass protector and a phenomenal everything else.
Right. Yeah, it was nice to see him. I mean, he's splitting out wide, right? I don't know. There's not anything that he can't do.
Yeah.
That he's probably not the best person on this team at doing as far as the running back room.
When the Eagles had that little stretch of poor play or just like kind of losing their rhythm and everything, were you guys questioning the same thing that when we saw that first drive that ultimately ended in what I didn't like an RPO on 4th and 2? I thought that was a terrible play call. And we'll touch on that in a minute. But that drive was very effective. A.J. Brown consistently getting open, making plays, DeAndre Swift running it. And then they had a stretch of like the second half of the first quarter into the halfway through the second quarter where A.J. Brown didn't get a target. And it was like, why did we stop? Like, it was working. We had one stupid play call, and it shouldn't have even gotten to that point. Like, Jalen Hurts missed Jack Stoll on a pass that, like, yeah, he probably should have caught, but he threw it way to the outside, and he was wide open in the middle, and then he missed it. Like, Hurts was a little bit off early in the game, but it's like, why did we go away from A.J. Brown for what seemed to be like an entire half of football, like 30 minutes,
and then
he wasn't seen. And then he went to it again.
Then we picked it right back up, and it was like they could not tackle A.J. Brown.
Yeah, it's like, why did we stop? Why didn't we do that the whole game long?
This is not a case of, okay, well, he was whining and complaining on the sidelines. Let's get him the ball. No, he was just a beast with the ball in his hands.
Yes, yard after the catch, everything. He was incredible. He had the one. I never saw the replay. He had that one in the end zone. Was it a drop? They never showed a replay of it where it seemed like it just hit him in the hands in the end zone and he didn't come down with it. And they went on to kick a field goal that drive. But other than that, I mean, he was making every single play possible. And for all I know, it could have been defended. They never showed any replay. And it looked like he dropped it, but who knows? But it just seemed like for 30 minutes of play, they didn't look his way.
Yeah, I'm actually blanking on that particular play. I don't know. I can't speak for Brian Johnson. That was one of the few, if I had to nitpick on something, the guy was just, they were not compensating.
No, and they're still really trying to figure out how to get Dallas Goedert involved.
No, I don't think they're trying to figure it out at all. I just don't think they are.
Yeah,
I think everything else is just working so well that somebody just isn't going to eat, and that person has been pretty consistently been Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, unfortunate.
I also thought Jack Stoll did a good job blocking.
Yeah, he did incredible.
He looks like a dork sometimes. He gets in that real low 3-point stance, right? Looks like a little pee-wee football player,
yeah.
Right? But just taking a look at pass protection again, he consistently was able to block and hold his man and ensure that Swift got to the second level.
Yeah. Doc, anybody stand out to you on offense? Obviously, DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think you know, seeing the way he runs, I had the opposite thing. I was like, the run's working. Why stop? Why throw the ball when you don't have to? Especially when we had the lead in the second half. Just killed the clock. And I think it was great they put Gainwell in there to get some experience. But yeah, I think, you know, offensively, AJ Brown had a great game. I would have liked to seen again more from the tight end play, because that's just another area of the field they got to cover. I mean, if you get some plays to their tight end, then
Yeah, you don't see
the
a whole lot
defense,
of the middle
you
of the
pick
field
your
being
poison.
utilized.
Yeah, and I think
The
I'd like
pass
to see
game.
more of that. And I mean, I think Devontae Smith is such a great player. He's such a great route runner, and he had some great catches, some great routes, and I need to see more of him. I do. I
Yeah.
mean, I love AJ Brown, but that
Well, you
guy,
saw a lot
I
of him the
mean,
first 2
he's
weeks.
like, yeah, but he's clutch. I mean, he
Oh
is
yeah.
clutch. Great hands, great route runner. And when you see him, it's like, wow, that guy. Why don't we use him anymore? But then you've got so many other weapons, and I think in that game AJ stood out. I mean, changed the shoes, but was good in the second half too. I think some of that was makeup for the week before, but I mean, he deserved it. He earned it, like you
Yeah.
said. If you can't stop him, you're going to keep going to him.
Listen, as long as this team is able to successfully run the ball 35 times a game, there's only going to be but so many mouths you can feed
Yeah.
in the receiving
Thinking
game.
the same thing.
Absolutely.
And this week they could not stop. This Buccaneers defense could not stop AJ Brown running curl routes. Like, it was just the separation was there. As soon as he turned to make his way upfield, it seemed like the Buccaneers always just guessed incorrectly on which way he was going to break. They couldn't stop it. So, unfortunately, for the sake of fantasy owners, somebody isn't going to score too much, right?
Right.
Dallas Goedert is going to have a couple games here and there where he gets his, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be every single week, right? I mean, we've seen Devontae open long quite frequently, right? I mean, I think Devontae is open just about every single play if we wanted to force feed him.
Right.
But if the defense isn't giving you that long ball to Devontae, and they're saying pick your poison, right? Every single week they're committing to something, which means that they're leaving something else open. And I've been super impressed with the coaching staff these last 2 games that is exploiting what the other defense has given them. Like, this has been a very good stretch of defensive coordinators and defensive minds.
Yeah. And this is a Buccaneers rush defense that was above average heading into this week.
Absolutely.
I mean,
this is a good defense.
After last night's game, they're still in the top half of the league. They allow 4.2 yards per carry, which is tied for like 15th. So just in the top half of the league. I don't have what they had week 2, but obviously after a performance like that average is going up. It was probably somewhere in the top 10, if not, top 5 yards per carry. And we just ran through them.
They said in the broadcast they were the number 2 defense against the run. Coming into
we took them from 2 to like 15, 16.
Yeah.
So pretty nice. Yeah, I mean, with this offensive line, I don't see a defense that's going to be able to stop it. And you add DeAndre Swift's shiftiness and explosiveness, it's going to be a very successful running team. And that's the difference. I touched on it last week between people that I've heard making the comparison of like, oh, Lamar Jackson, the Ravens had a good regular season stretches, but they, you can't expect to win like this in the postseason. The big difference is we can pass if we need to, but why would we? We haven't come to a point in any game where it's like, oh man, we really need to get down the field quick and score.
It's because the rules nowadays certainly favor passing, right? So every single defensive coordinator is coming in there saying, we have to stop teams from passing the ball effectively, right? So that means the run is a bit more vulnerable. And this team is just very good at exploiting that.
Yeah.
Right? Take one look at our receiving core. This is a top 5, top 3, top 2 receiving core.
Oh, for sure.
In the league. Right. And we still have the ability to run the ball down your throat if you choose to commit to stopping any of these receivers.
Yeah. And if we want to knock the play calling, which again, like I said it 10 minutes ago, the RPO on 4th and 2 was idiotic. That was a terrible play call. But if we want to knock that, like, we have to also acknowledge they have like figured out what the opposing defense is going to try to do to try to stop, and said, okay, we'll do the opposite. Where you've seen years past them be like, no, we are dead set on this is 40 pass attempts minimum. I don't care what's going on. They're like, okay, yeah, we'll pass it. But if you're going to try and stop the pass exclusively, we're just going to continue to run it, which is great to see.
It's just it's nice to see in a league that's full of like cutting edge innovation and always trying to get that one step ahead, that they're just keeping it as simple as possible and winning with it. It's just very like I love to see this big ugly football being played right now. It's awesome.
It is. You win in the trenches, and they obviously devote a lot of their time, money, and resources to the trenches with the draft picks early on. Really quick, want to touch on a little surprised Tyler Steen has consistently still been a healthy scratch. He's a second round pick in the trenches, and he's yet to make the active game day roster.
Well,
Just an observation.
I mean, who came in when Dickerson went down? I'm sorry, I don't have it right out. I mean, I'm
The
totally
Samoan.
Suo Peta.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they just may think that in this stage of their careers, just knowing the offense and exactly what to do, that Opeta is just that just a little bit
He's been on the team for a little while.
right.
Yeah.
It's tough. Right. It's tough because you're not cycling these guys in and out. You have to make one decision as far as an offensive line swap. It's not like linebacker or safety where you can continually work these guys in here. And it was just, I'm not surprised at all that Opeta is better handled or better suited to handle that work.
Yeah,
right
but
now.
you'd think he
Just right now, you see a lot of these the learning curves that all these younger guys are having. Some of these guys that haven't been on the team real long. So,
Yeah.
I mean, just trust the offensive line coach here.
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, I mean, hard not to.
I totally called the fake push, but Jalen's got to keep his feet.
I actually called it too. I was like, they're not doing a normal one.
I
But that
tweeted
was
it
upsetting
before the game.
because of what happened, and they showed their hand when they
Yeah,
really didn't.
and even
need to.
even the announcers were like, I don't know why they did that.
At
'Cause they're
that
not
point
gonna
in
do
the
it again.
game.
Yeah.
They're not going to do it again. They're going to do at some little wrinkle, in 3 weeks, they're going to do it again where they toss it to one of the tush pushers. I called it wrong. I thought they were going to do that this game, but I definitely, I was tweeting it out like, if you're going to spend extra time in practice trying to beat this, then we're just going to subvert expectations. We're going
Which, to the Buccaneers' credit, they did as good of a job anybody could have done at stopping the quarterback sneak of the Philadelphia Eagles, and they still couldn't do it. Yeah, I mean, they did stop it on third down.
We just opted to do it on third.
Yeah, exactly.
and
But
We
they
just
did
did it
stop it.
again.
Yeah.
But yeah, to their credit, they did as good of a job anybody can do. And I still am blown away watching football on Sunday how little other teams utilize that play.
Yeah, like when people are arguing that it should be illegal, it's like, well, I mean, I think we would see other teams doing it and doing it very well.
Yeah.
If it was just some like
You're seeing
outlandishly
third and
illegal
one,
game.
fourth and one, third and inches, fourth and inches, where they're doing shotgun inside handoffs. They're passing the ball. I mean, look, Raiders got the score, but they did a 40-yard pass to Devontae Adams on fourth and inches for a touchdown. Like, you're seeing just constant examples of teams like, man, why aren't you utilizing this?
Yeah, it's been a mystery because it's a real copycat league.
Yeah.
And you've
Well,
seen
worked for
other
one
teams.
team, other teams will do. You saw the year after the Philly special, it was utilized 6 different times that season by 6 different teams.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I think it's a little bit harder than most teams are giving the Eagles credit for. But yeah, I mean, that was probably the best thing, or what the Bucs did best.
Yeah,
right. I think
stopping
they
that.
spent all of last week trying to stop the tush push, and they forgot how to play every other down.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that play will surface in Indianapolis once Richardson gets healthy.
Yeah.
Not with Minshew, but with Richardson, because Steichen will use it.
Shout out Minshew and the Colts beating the Ravens.
I mean, look, poor Indianapolis. Other than this week, they're stuck with Minshew.
Yeah, he played.
Yeah.
He played all right.
He played all right. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did. He won't continue to play that way.
Well, what? And Richardson only had a concussion. He'll be back soon.
Right.
He'll be back.
Yeah, nobody actually cares about concussions.
No.
Any other thoughts of the game? Anything else that anybody wants to touch on?
No.
I think,
good job.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say good job to Philly fans for traveling.
Yeah.
We touched on it a
Like
little bit
damn
earlier.
Christmas
Oh
Christmas
my
scene
goodness.
is the red and green.
It was 60-40 Birds.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing. Your team is 2-0. You're celebrating Rondé Barber, who made one of the most infamous plays against
this
Philadelphia.
team.
Right. Baker Mayfield showing up in the Rondé Barber jersey. I just knew they were trying to whip some ass. That was just the worst juju that you could possibly do for a guy that's been on the Bucs for like 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, you're pissing off a lot of long time fans here, buddy.
Yeah, my whole thing is, we're a 3-0 team, but we haven't had any cupcakes yet. You see the team down south bragging when they were 2-0, and who did they really play? And I think we've played some good. We played Belichick. We've played Minnesota, who's always good. Maybe not this year, and a tough Tampa Bay defense. And we've risen to the challenge. So I'm very impressed. This Super Bowl hangover thing right now hasn't really. I think it's more hangover from not playing, in the preseason. I think that's what we're dealing with. And I think this is a team that's equipped to play well throughout this year and maybe break that jinx.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing the difference between good and great teams. I mean, good teams are 2-1 and lose against terrible Arizona teams when you have a bad week, and great teams win even when they haven't played to their full potential, which I don't think, like, defense played phenomenal and aspects of the offense played great, but we still haven't played a flawless game, and you never see a flaw, but to what we were playing last year from kickoff to final whistle. And we're still winning by double digits.
Yeah, I mean, I alluded to it earlier. There are going to be more talented teams that we play this season, but just as far as defensive minds, I mean, you got Bill Belichick week 1, right? You got Brian Flores week 2, right? You've got what's the head coach of the Bucs? I'm blanking on it now. Todd Bowles week 3. Like, these are some of the best defensive.
And that's a guy that planned for Jalen 2 years ago perfectly.
Right. And that plan no longer works. You cannot copy your own homework anymore, ladies and gentlemen. So we are seeing growing pains from them not playing in the preseason.
And not only that, you had Belichick with months to prepare. Nobody's like, he obviously was focused on a lot of things, not just preparing for week 1. But you had Belichick with as much time as he wanted to game plan, and then you had Todd Bowles with 11 days to game plan.
And it still didn't work.
Yeah, like you're giving these guys time to really try and figure out, and it's still not working.
So I'm just really excited to see more and more gear start clicking as this season progresses, because I mean, the sky's the limit.
Oh yeah, 100%.
If the defense,
week 6, we're 6-0.
I very likely. I mean, you're gonna have to hold off until we give our predictions. But
you can guess mine. Win. We're heading into the bye 8-0.
You hear it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
There's a Miami game in there.
They don't scare me. They're pretty darn good.
I might not be scared, but I'm a little amped up. I'm a little amped up.
Yeah.
Anxious, maybe? That's a good word. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. That's a bad team. In a good way.
Yeah. Anxiety similar to the anxiety you feel every day of postseason baseball.
No, actually, almost, but not quite there. We are getting there. We are so there.
And we're going to be there. Literally, we are getting there because we're going there.
I'm going to be screaming like a mother whose son is getting into a fight in school.
Yeah. Final thought, Sean.
Final thought. I didn't know this episode was over so soon.
Good thought.
Doc, any final thoughts?
I am super psyched for Sunday. It is revenge day. I want Goddard to score 3 times, and I want to slaughter those. I want to slaughter those fools.
Well, Sam Howell certainly looked terrible. Holy cow, did he look bad? So can't expect him to look that bad in back-to-back weeks, but we're gonna damn well try. That's my final thought. Go Birds.